Welcome to Home Fires, a series of conversations with artists unraveling the process and research behind a recent body of work. Today, we're speaking to Noémie Goudal about her new series, Tropiques, which presents a series of windows onto lush landscapes that Noémie creates. Noémie, your recent research examines the Earth from the perspective of deep time. And I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about how that has informed the creation of this series.
I'm very much interested at the moment in seeing the different reliefs that the Earth has gone through. So basically, I'm trying to look at the Earth and the landscape of the Earth, not through the human eye and human time, but through its own time, so 4.5 billion years old, and trying to see all the changes and the mutations that the Earth went through in order to arrive at the landscape that we have now. It's a mix between going to geography, but going into time as well. And it's actually something that is not new in my work, because I've always been interested in this question of geography and time.
So Tropiques relates to one specific theory, if I'm not mistaken. Could you tell us a little about that?
Tropiques is in this whole corpus, which is called Les Mécaniques. Tropiques is one of the first chapter, and it really is about fossils of tropical jungles that were found in the Antarctic, and how, when scientists found that very deep under the ice, they were able to, with obviously in the context of other scientific researchers, but they were able to deduct that actually the movement, this part of the world, was much further down. And for me, what is really interesting is to look at the landscape as I said, as a moving entity, and looking at how sort of discover what a territory can be. So the territory we are standing on, the earth, the soil that we're standing on, is moving all the time. It's still moving, just a few centimeters per year, but it's still moving. In Tropiques, the idea is to have the way I organize the photo shoot is that I have the same background. It's shot in the exact same place in a very European, type of landscape. And in this particular landscape, I worked with a lot of decors, a lot of paper backdrops, which I hang in front of the other, almost like a theater decors. And I photograph with the same frame, almost the same framing, the landscape, the different landscape coming, the different paper backdrops coming in front of the other, and therefore changing from one photo to another. You can see it changing and evolving.
In your work, we always talk about this idea of a push and pull, which comes from the sort of essence of what a trompe-l'oeil does, in the sense that it both presents an illusion and announces itself at the same time. But in this series, part of that push-pull is this kind of hyper-real nature of the images, where you look at them, they look like loud, lush landscapes, but simultaneously they're jarring. These forests, they're all forests, but they don't really belong together. And when you look at the images, you have a sense that the background and the foreground are actually not necessarily matched at all.
If you have a landscape that is in front of you, it has a history, and it's made of many different layers that creates this very, this landscape. And for me, it's about looking at its historicity and so of juxtaposition of stratus and layering, and it's exactly what I was trying to do with those images.
On the one hand, you're talking about very long time scales, but on the other hand, we are talking about kind of inevitably we end up talking about questions of climate, and how relevant they are today. Do you feel an urgency to this work?
I do more and more. I didn't want to talk about that in my work at all before, because it was not, I was looking at, I guess, more philosophical point of views on how we look at nature and how the human position themselves in front of the nature and in front of landscape in general. And I think now, because I'm talking to young scientists who are working in very specific fields, I kind of, it's obvious that it's the main thing we are going through. So it's obvious that it's in all the discussions that we have.
If we can just come back to like the compositions themselves, like firstly, we mentioned before, there's this waterfall that you see in each one of the images, which is obviously you know, a part of the landscape that you're staging these sets within. That was obviously a conscious decision. What are you aiming for with that?
For me, it was having the same waterfall in each of the photographs, almost like a performance of me not moving place. The camera and the waterfall are a sort of, the waterfall is a landmark of something that is a fixed point of the image, and then all the other landscapes are moving and being juxtaposed one to another, etc. So I wanted to have this particular part of the image as a territory, a part of the territory that is not moving, and all the others are kind of changing. So
right.
it's for me, because it's not about switching from one landscape to another, you know, that would have been, I think, another project. But for me, it was, there is a, you know, like a starting point, and then it's, you know.
Sure.
Don't know if my gestures are better than the words.
No, that was good. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. That was fascinating.
Thank you.